Medicare plan. Video Man. MedicareVideoGuide.com.
When it comes to medical things, it's seldom as neat as as one visit to the doctor. I mean, maybe you get a stuffy nose, you need to go to the doctor, you get in and out with one copay. But if it's anything any more complicated than that, you're probably going to have some additional visits in there. So keep that in mind that this can add up. And each time that you're making out of pocket payments, that's contributing to this maximum out of pocket. So if you're having a really bad year, at some point it's going to max out. And then the insurance company will pick up everything beyond that. Yeah, yep, that's how they typically work. And you remember your open enrollment period? Okay, with Medicare, there's something like that. It's called the annual election period, and it happens in the fall. This is kind of like Black Friday for insurance people. So between October the 15th and December the 7th, if you don't remember the dates, you'll know because that's when the commercials come on television all the time. And you get to see Joe Namath again and JJ Walker. So that's when we make changes to these Advantage plans. Now, let's talk about prescription drugs. This is like the bonus content here. Y'all are going to know more about prescription drugs than all of your friends. Have you ever heard the term formulary? Formulary is like what's on the menu. Part D prescription drug plans, they've all got a list of the drugs that they cover. And so, if we're at Denny's, they've got their menu. If you go across the street over here to another restaurant, they've got another menu. They may have steak and lobster and shrimp on their menu, and they've got pancakes and eggs and bacon on their menu over here. They've each got their own menu, and they've got their own prices on there. Well, the same thing with Part D prescription drug plans. Each plan has its own menu and its own prices. And these menus are typically structured in five tiers. The first tier is what they call preferred generic drugs. Those are the ones when you go to the pharmacy, you might pay zero for. Then you may have non-preferred generic drugs that have a small copayment at the pharmacy, maybe $5. They're typically not very much. Then you get into brand name drugs. Now that's when they start to get a little bit more expensive. A brand name drug might retail from $600 to $1,000, but you've got a copayment in there that's much less than that. And one that we've seen in recent years that's fairly common is $47. Then you get non-preferred brand name drugs, and you get a higher copayment in there. 30-day supply might have a $100 copay. It varies by plan, okay? If you get into specialty drugs, then they'll stop doing fixed copayments altogether, and they'll just say you're going to pay a percentage of the cost of the drug in there. So if you got a $6,000 drug, you might pay 25%. You got $1,500 out of pocket. All of these Part D plans operate in phases. And what we're looking at up here is what this looks like in 2024. The first phase, which begins in January or whenever you first enroll, if you're enrolling midway through the year, you're going to start out in phase one. That's the deductible phase. And you'll know you're in the deductible phase because you're paying 100% of the cost of your drugs while you're there until you reach your deductible. Now, the most common deductible is $545. They do vary by plan, but that's the most common deductible. The reason it's the most common is because that's the most that the government will allow them to charge. Once you reach your deductible, then you're going to tip over into the second phase. That's the initial coverage phase. That's where all of this stuff applies. You'll be in the initial coverage phase. Most people stay there. They don't get beyond that. But if you were having a really bad year, and your total drug costs for the year reach $5,030, then you're going to tip over into the third phase. And most people don't get that much. It's not just $5,030 out of pocket for you. It's a total of $5,030. So how much the insurance company is paying and how much that you're paying. And so let me give you a scenario of what that might look like. Let's say that you had a preferred brand name drug that retails for $1,000 for 30 days. After that, you're in the initial coverage phase. You got a copayment down here that's significantly less than the cost of the drug. So we try to avoid the donut hole if we can. If you are in the donut hole, you'll be there until the total cost of your drug, $8,000. Okay. Now the number's not quite as scary as it looks, because that's not $8,000 out of pocket. That's the total cost. Insurance companies paying for some of this. You're paying for some of this. $8,000 really is more like $3,500 out of pocket. Still, it's a lot of money though. At that point, you'll be in the catastrophic phase. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It's really not that bad, because from there on, you'll be paying zero until you get back around here to January the 1st of the next year and we start over again.